Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, the show that takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible.
Welcome to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello, everybody. How is it going today? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Happy Monday. Happy new start to a week. You guys all know how much I love Mondays. It's just another opportunity and chance to create the life you want to live. You can get organized and set yourself up for a positive week, which I just absolutely love. So I hope you're already having a productive and positive day so far. My weekend was relaxing. I got to take some time to myself and do some fun things, and then I got to organize and get ready for my week. So that's always so good for me. But now we are back with another feel-good episode about creating the life you want to live, helping you create that happy and full life, ways that you can live your life to the fullest and make sure that you are staying on track with everything, like your goals and your dreams and just your happiness in general. So today, guess what I'm going to be talking about? I'm going to be talking about happiness in general, and it's such a broad subject, of course, but I'm going to be particularly talking today about some happiness myths. I'm going to be going through some of those, talking to you about some of the biggest happiness myths that everyone says, those cliches of what makes you happy and what doesn't make you happy and all of that. And then I'm going to jump further into cultivating your own happiness. So lots of information to be shared today, and I'm super excited to do so. So let's jump right into it. And I thought today I would talk to you about the happiness ranking. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but there is a World Happiness Report, and it happens every single year, and it literally ranks the countries that are rated the most happy, I guess. So I thought I would read the top 10 of the 2019 report. So you might be a little bit surprised. I don't know if I'm surprised or not. I don't know. This report seems weird to me, but okay, let's share. So number 1 is Finland. Number 2 is Denmark. 3 is Norway, Iceland, Netherlands, Switzerland, Sweden, New Zealand. Number 9 is Canada, and number 10 is Austria. So you do notice that US is not in the top 10 of the World Happiest Report of 2019. So in 2018, the US ranked number 18 on the list, and in 2019, it ranked 19 on the list, which is actually the lowest it has ever ranked before, which is pretty crazy. So I thought I would just list that off for you because I found it quite interesting. To be honest, I had no idea that there was a World Happiness Report, but there's a report every single year that puts out the happiest countries. And the authors that I also found that these trends were quite troubling in the happiness inequality, and which is the psychological, parallel to income inequality as well, and how much individuals in a society differ from, in how satisfied they are in life. And since 2007, I guess happiness inequality has been rising within countries. So that's meaning that the gap between the unhappy and the happy has been getting wider. And this trend is particularly strong in Latin America, Asia, and Africa as well. So the report also features commentary and analysis from economics, psychologists, and public policy experts about urgent issues in well-being. And one theme of the 2019 was that sad state of happiness in the United States. So the research suggests that American adults have been getting less happy since 2000, while adolescents have been experiencing more depression, suicidal ideation, and self-harm since 2010. And it's difficult to say why this is happening, and they just tease out some symptoms from different causes. But if you want to find out more information, you can definitely go to the World Happiness Report. There's a website, there's lots of information of exactly how they collect all this data and what they do. But this report is released annually on the International Day of Happiness. And the World Happiness Report just ranks the countries based on their life satisfaction. And this is in the Gallup World Pool. So residents rate how satisfied they are with their lives on a scale of 0 to 10, from the worst possible life to the best possible life. And Finland has actually been number 1 for the second year in a row. And then Denmark, Norway, Iceland, and the Netherlands follow always pretty close after as well. And then, like I said, the US was ranked number 19. That average score was 6.9, and that's down from number 18 last year. So I thought I would share that with you just to put some things in perspective. Of course, no matter where you are in the world, we're all trying to cultivate happiness. We're all trying to live our best life, hopefully, make the most of everything that we're doing and living our life to the fullest. And so I just find that there's so many myths, there's so many cliches of the things that make you happy and don't make you happy, and it can go on and on and on. So I'm going to start today with sharing some of those myths and talking to you about those, because they're just everywhere in our lives. And I think the most common myth or the most common cliche that people say, like money doesn't buy happiness. The myth is that money will make you happy, but it's a myth. Money will not buy you happiness. And, money is definitely one of the, finances is one of the highest stressors for most people. Everyone struggles with their finances and at some point usually, and that can be one of the highest stressors, the highest cause of depression and sadness and just an unhappy life because of all the stress that it has. And it's because, we need money to have a roof over our head, to buy food, shelter, clothing. But once you have enough money to be comfortable, getting more money isn't going to make much of a difference in how happy you are. So studies of lottery winners show that after a relatively short period of time, they are no more happy than they were before they won the lottery. Of course, once you win the lottery at first, you're pretty excited, pretty happy, and that's a huge lifestyle change, right? If you won that huge sum of money. But the thing is that money does not buy happiness. It never will. Of course, it is going to put that roof over your head. It is going to play a factor into your quality of life. And of course, your quality of life plays a factor into your happiness level and how you feel about yourself and everything else, right? So of course, all these things do play a factor into it. But just because, if you won the lottery doesn't mean that you're going to be happy automatically for the rest of your life. The next myth is you need a relationship in order to be happy. So the fact is that being in a healthy and supportive relationship does contribute to happiness, but it's not true that you can't be happy and fulfilled if you are single. And this is something that, I feel like a lot of people go through. They have to try to figure out how to be happy on their own, because it is very easy to lean on somebody else for your happiness, to count on other people for happiness. And that's where things go wrong, because if you're always counting on a relationship or other people in your life for your happiness, you will never be fully happy alone. And relationships come and go. People come and go out of your life. Nothing is ever completely certain that it's going to be permanent there forever. And so if you're not happy with being alone, then, you're never going to be truly, fully happy no matter what, because you never know what kind of curveball life is going to throw you. So you don't need to be in a relationship to be happy. Of course, those relationships contribute to your happiness and they add on to all those things, but that doesn't mean that you can't be happy alone. And it's extremely important to learn how to be happy on your own. It's just important to note that even a good marriage or a romantic relationship doesn't lead to a permanent instant, intense happiness boost. Of course, you're going to get, certain factors that definitely up your happiness. But expecting your partner to deliver your happily ever after can actually really harm that relationship in the long run. So you, not your partner or your family members, are responsible for your own happiness. So that's super important to remember. Now, my last myth right now is that happiness declines with age. So a lot of people think this, but contrary to popular belief, people tend to actually get happier with age. There is a study that shows that seniors experience more positive emotions and fewer or less intense negative emotions than young people and middle-aged adults. So as a whole, older adults are also more satisfied with their lives, they're less sensitive to stress, and they're more emotionally stable, right? Because you have more experience, you've gone through more things, you can manage those negative emotions in your life. So even with the losses that come with age, it is the happiest time of life for many people. All right, so those are the first 3 myths I'm going to share with you. It is time for a little bit of a break, but when we get back, I am going to jump into a few more myths, talk about them a little bit more, and then we're going to talk about some tips of how to cultivate happiness into your life. I got lots of good information for you today, so don't go anywhere. I will be right back.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo, just in case you forgot. Hello. We are back. We're talking about the biggest myths about happiness, and we're also going to be talking about cultivating happiness into your life. Happiness is something that we all strive for, I would have to say, and, it is something that we focus on a lot in our life, is to be happy, right? That is, I think, people's goals. They just want to be happy. And just like this podcast, it's designed to help you live your life to the happiest and the fullest, tips and tricks and, things that you can do to help reach that happiness for you in your life. But there are so many myths out there of what can make you happy and what's not going to make you happy. So let's get right back into explaining some of those things. The next myth I want to share with you is that some people are just happier than others, and there's nothing that you can do about it, or there's nothing that you can do to change it at all, right? So the thing is that genetics do play a role in happiness. So there has been current research that suggests that people are born with a certain happiness set point, but that only accounts for about half of our happiness level. Another 10% is due to life circumstances, and that leaves 40% that is determined to your actions and choices. So there is a lot of control when it comes to happiness, and there's of course things that you cannot control when it comes to happiness. But, genetics do play a role. These things, like if you have mental illness in your family, it runs in your family, that is a factor in playing with your happiness. But then of course there is actions and choices that you can make that contribute to your happiness. And so there are things that you can control and there are things that you can't control. But, it doesn't just mean like others are happier than you and there's just nothing you can do about it. That's not true. There are things that you can do about it, even though there's things that you can't control. Remember that there are things that you can. And so you have to make the right choices for yourself. Now, my next myth is that achieving your goals will make you happy. I talk a lot about achieving your goals on this podcast because I think it's important to have goals and to go after them and go after your dreams and whatever you want in life, because I think that really does help live your life to the happiest and the fullest. but people always think that once they achieve their goals, that they will be happy. What I also talk a lot about in this podcast is that it's about the journey. It's about celebrating all the small victories along to that way to that big goal. A lot of people see happiness as a final result. Once I pay off my debt, once I graduate school, once I get a promotion, once I find a husband or a wife, that means I'll have happiness. I'll be happy, which is not true. You have to be able to learn how to be happy throughout the journey because it's not a final destination. So that's a very important thing to remember. So, which kind of goes with my next one, is that happiness is the destination. So that is a myth, because happiness is often viewed as a future destination. Once I do this, I'll be happy. Once I do that, I'll be happy, whatever it is. Happiness is viewed as a future destination or just something that's kind of in the distance, right? And that you can you're going to obtain happiness once you get there. But happiness is not a destination. It could not be further than the truth. If you cannot be happy right now in the present moment, no matter what your circumstances are, then you're never going to be truly happy one day, right? We got to stop at the one day I'll be happy when I get this. The one day when this happens, I'll be happy. Happiness is something that you find within yourself and not on an outside situation or destination, whatever the case is. Which leads to my next myth. There is a path to happiness. A lot of people think that there is a linear path to happiness and how you're going to achieve it. That is so far from the truth, it is not even funny. Now, there is a certain level of happiness, okay, that we all can reach, we can all get to. We have that certain level of happiness. It's kind of a straight line across, right? And you can be below that level of happiness, or you can be above that level of happiness. But certain circumstances and things that happen in your life will always kind of bring you back down to that level, right? We all got this one kind of straight line of happiness that we kind of, it's just our baseline of happiness. And so things like winning the lottery, okay, that might push you over the line for a bit, right? You might be above that normal kind of line of happiness in your life. And then there's situations in your life that are going to bring you below the line, like losing a loved one or just going through a tough time with something. Maybe you are struggling with a mental illness, things like that. But the thing with life is that it is filled with hills and valleys. It is filled with ups and downs. It is filled with times where you're going to get above that peak of happiness and you're going to be below that line of happiness as well. And there is just, that's just a part of life. So there's no linear pathway to happiness. You can't check off 10 boxes and just get there. It's just not how it works. And so there's always going to be ups and downs, and you will always find your way back to that steady line of happiness in your life, which is a little bit different for everybody, but we all do have that steady line of happiness where peaks and valleys kind of go in and out of it, right? And so you'll always, always, always have those situations. There is definitely no 10-step simple process of how to obtain happiness or how to cultivate happiness or anything like that, especially with what I've been talking about this entire podcast. There is no easy answer. And if there was an easy answer, well, that would, what are we all doing then? What are we all doing then? There's no easy answer. Life is crazy. So many hills and valleys, so many different things, so many different factors that play into our mental health and our happiness and the way that we feel, our positive and negative emotions. So there is no clear path to happiness. You will always have ups and downs. Now, the next myth I want to share with you is that the normal state for humans is happy. And the most unhelpful myth out there is that exact one right there, that a normal state for humans is to be happy all the time. That's not true, okay? If you are happy all the time, or most of the time, that's great. That is so great. But just, if you aren't happy most of the time or all the time, that's not unnormal. Right? It's not normal to 100% be happy 100% of the time. It's just, like I was saying before, there's so many hills and valleys that how can you always be happy 100% of the time? Because in reality, much of life is pain. We experience a lot of things, right? We experience those valleys, and then we experience the hills and all these different things too, right? So the thing is too, is when you don't let yourself embrace the pain and let yourself experience those things, you kind of have this flat line. And we have to learn how to embrace every up and down, right? It's not just about the positive emotions, but it's understanding our negative emotions as well. Because if you cannot understand and truly, feel and trust yourself at that lower state of happiness, you're going to have a hard time understanding the higher states of happiness as well, right? It's up and down, constantly. So, if you're not happy, 100% happy, 100% of the time, that is so normal. So normal. Okay, I'm going to share one more myth with you, and then we'll start talking about cultivating happiness into your life. And my last one I'm going to share with you is that your career is enough to make you happy. So our society has put so much pressure into finding a career, finding a job, that it seems like it's a part of your identity, right? Like it defines you. And your career does not define you. What you do for work, that will never define you. I could do a whole episode on just that alone, right? Because those things don't define you as a person. And I find that so many young people who experience, kind of this rude awakening entering a workplace, they find that they feel quite unfulfilled, right? And it's this very low state of happiness. And of course, your career is a part of your happiness. Of course, it's going to play a factor. And of course, you should find a career that you are happy with, right? Like you want to love going to your job because it's never going to feel like work that way. But having a career that you love is not enough to make you happy. There's so many other factors in your life that play a role in how you feel, your positive and negative emotions. And just because you worked your butt off for 15 years to get this career doesn't mean that, once you obtain that career, once you have that ideal career for your life, that you're just going to have a lifelong filled of happiness. And it's not true. There's so many other things. We have relationships with people. We have our relationship with ourselves, experiences, adventures, things that we go through. And there's so many aspects to life that we have to combine everything together. It's not just one factor that's going to make you happy forever. Your career is not going to just make you happy forever. It can definitely contribute to your happiness, just like a relationship can. But you can't base your happiness strictly on that. All right. Okay. So those were a bunch of myths now about happiness. It is time for another break. But when we get back, I am going to be just giving you some tips about cultivating your happiness. So don't go anywhere. I got lots more to share. I will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. All right, we are on the last stretch of today's episode. Hello. We're talking all about the myths about happiness. We're talking about now cultivating happiness into your life. And this is different for everybody. all the tips and things that I'm going to be saying or that I have been saying throughout this episode, you got to tailor things to yourself. And it's different for everybody. And I just want to make that very clear that, there's ways that we can cultivate happiness into our life. And there's definitely things that we can do to try to obtain more happiness in our life. And like I mentioned, there's things that we can and cannot control. And mostly I'm talking about things that we can control. And these tips have worked for me. These tips are in studies and things like that, and they're just things that we can do to try to make the most out of the life that we are living. But just always remember, you have to tailor for what works for you, and something that works for someone else might not work for you, and something that works for you might not work for your best friend, and then it all goes full circle. So just find what works for you, tailor things to you, and hopefully these tips and tricks can help you cultivate happiness into your life. So the first thing that we need to do is we have to try to train our brain to be more positive. I talk so much about positive and negative emotions and how we have to let ourselves feel every single emotion, positive and negative. That is so important. But when we can train our brains to look on the bright side, to feel positive most of the time, to try to find the positive things out of our lives, it is such a crucial and important way to cultivate happiness into our life. Our brains are wired to notice and remember the things that are wrong. It's a survival mechanism, and it's helped keep our, cave ancestors safe in a world where there were many physical threats. But in today's safe world, the way that we do this, to focus on the negative, it really contributes to our stress and our unhappiness. So we can't change our nature, but we can train our brains to be more positive. We can do things to help ourselves be more positive. And this doesn't mean, putting a smiley face and whistling a happy tune no matter what's going on in your life. You don't have to ignore reality. Like I said, you always need to let yourself feel your emotions. But we just cannot dwell on the negative things that fuel our unhappiness. So we have to choose to, notice and appreciate and anticipate positive things in our life. And that is such a powerful happiness booster. So how can we do this? Well, we can express gratitude. Gratitude is such a huge thing. Becoming more grateful can just make a huge difference in your overall happiness. Research shows that gratitude really does help you experience more positive emotions. It will decrease your depression. It makes you feel better about yourself. It can improve your relationships. It even strengthens your immune system. Showing gratitude is huge. There's actually been a recent study that has revealed that gratitude even makes you smarter about how you're spending your money. Yes, express gratitude every single chance that you can. And there's a lot of different exercises that you can do to express gratitude. Because it's like, well, yeah, Alyssa, I know that. Like, I say thank you all the time. I say I appreciate things and all those, all those typical things, right? And I get that. We think that we express gratitude as much as possible, but there are more ways that we can do it. And of course, the first one is give sincere thanks to others, and of course, say thank you and be polite and really appreciate when people do things for you. That is a given. Another thing that we can do is just keep a gratitude journal. It sounds kind of cheesy, but I do have a little small journal I keep in my purse, and I wish I could say every single day, but I'm going to say most days I wake up and I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. It reminds me of the life that I'm living. It reminds me to look on the positive side. It reminds me to find, positive things even when I'm feeling down. It is my reminder that there are still good things going on in my life, things that I can be grateful for. And I try to write things, that have been bothering me. If I'm unhappy with school, maybe I'm stressed out and stuff, I write a gratitude of, I am so grateful to be in the program that I am in right now, and things like that. And so you can tailor it to the way that you're feeling, but I highly suggest keeping a gratitude journal and just simply writing things that you are grateful for. Count your blessings, of course. You can also write a letter of gratitude. This can be to somebody else that has really shown, some really kindness to you, some effort, a lot of appreciation, and writing a letter of gratitude can really go a long way. It makes people feel good. And as cheesy as it is, you can also write a letter of gratitude to yourself. All the things that you're grateful for, all the things, thank your body for being able to take care of you and protect you, and thank your heart for letting you feel all these emotions, and your brain for letting you gain all this knowledge and things like that. It sounds silly, but it really, really helps you focus on the positive. Okay, so now my next is nurture and enjoy your relationships. This is such a cool way to cultivate happiness into your life, because human connection in our relationships is so important to our overall happiness. We don't realize how much a connection in our social life and having family and friends that we care about and care about us, how much that makes our happiness just boost. It's crazy. And when you have that supportive circle of family and friends, you have a very fulfilling marriage, or you have a really thriving social life, that can really boost your overall happiness. So my tips for this is make a conscious effort to stay connected to those people. And when you find good friends, hold on to them tight and make sure that you are making that effort to stay connected, because friends can come and go, and you're not always going to find the best friends in your life. You're going to have friends that are great and some that are not so great. And when you find the great ones, hold on to them and make the effort to always stay connected. Invest in quality time with the people that you care about. Spending time with those people that care about you and that you care about boosts your happiness immensely. So make sure that you do invest in just quality time with those people. They're going to bring your vibes up. They're going to bring your positivity up, your motivation, your drive. I always talk about making sure you're surrounding yourself by the right people. And that means too, the people that you care about and that care about you most. You got to make time for them. And then offer sincere compliments. This is a huge thing. I know that sometimes it can be awkward to receive compliments or to give compliments, but compliments really do boost other people's happiness. As awkward as it may seem at times, getting a sincere compliment really goes a far ways. Like, have you ever had like a stranger just compliment you on something and it just completely makes your day because you're like, wow, thank you. Because, they have no other reason other than they just wanted to be kind and they really liked your hat or whatever you were wearing or whatever the compliment was. And it's super cool to give those compliments out as well. So never feel embarrassed to compliment somebody on something that you truly appreciate or that you truly love, because you have no idea how that could affect their happiness or how their day is going or their week. All right, my next one is always live in the moment and savor life's pleasures. This is huge. We got to live in the moment. We cannot be focusing on the past or even the future. We have to focus on right now, because all we have is right now. Tomorrow is not promised, and the past has passed, and that is life, and that is okay. And we cannot dwell on the past, and we cannot focus on the future. We have to pay attention to the present moment, and when we're able to pay attention to the present moment, we're able to savor those huge pleasures in life. Just those feel-good things. Like when you are spending quality time with the people that you care about and that care about you, you really want to savor that moment sometimes and make sure that you feel connected and happy. So when you focus on the present moment, you're much more likely to feel centered. You feel happier, you feel at peace. You're also much more likely to notice the good things that are happening in your life because you're just sitting there and you're so aware of everything, rather than letting, things just pass by or be unappreciated or unobserved. So how can you live more in the present moment? And of course, we just got to practice mindfulness. And living in the present moment, it takes time, I think, to really learn how to do this properly. But once you are able to do it, it just... it makes such a world of a difference. And so there's different things that you can do. You can, meditate. A lot of people meditate to get into the present moment. But if you're not much of a meditator, I'm not much of a meditator, but I really try to be mindful of myself and to just take a moment and take 10 deep breaths. I like to go outside if I'm feeling, stressed out or something like that. Walk outside, if I go for a walk or a run or something, that's great. Or I can just step outside my front door and just take 10 deep breaths. Close my eyes, open them, appreciate the nature, appreciate my life at this moment, and just think of how I'm feeling right now. And what I love to do is a full body scan. Okay, so start from your head or start from your toes, it doesn't matter, and just do a full body scan of everything and just really think about each part of your body. I know this sounds weird, but you're really paying attention to how each part feels and really paying attention to how you're thinking. And it really does make a difference to let yourself feel completely in the moment. So just focus on you, focus on the moment, take 10 deep breaths, and just let yourself breathe through the present moment. All right. Well, that is all that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Please do not forget to head over, hit that subscribe button, like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. I look forward to sharing more information with you next time. Stay positive, stay in the present moment, and spread kindness every single chance that you get. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find the show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Life and Happiness Podcast.